Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today it is September 7th, and we're doing business and security. I think. Business and security.
I'm going to do the mango seltzer water from Krista.
I brought that from home.
But I just want to say, look at this. Like this could be a product photo here. The can is just a little bit sweaty because it's just above freezing. This is from Sausage Toes. Sent me 2 cases of Orange Crush.
That's when we find out that in the pictures, it's never actual condensation. It's like hot glue or something.
Yeah.
Food pictures are always a lie.
Yeah, they definitely are, especially fast food. All right, so
this is seltzer, and it's mango, so it's not truly an orange.
Where did you acquire this?
Kroger.
This is a very strong mango smell.
It's the off-brand seltzer water because LaCroix is too expensive to buy.
Wait a minute, there's no orange in that? Krista, come on.
That's the best I had. Listen. Did we ever try the Orange L8? Because I brought some of that in. I don't know if we sampled it.
I think there's one in the fridge. I don't know if I tried that one.
Here's the thing, chat. I think the bracket is a great idea. I think we should do the bracket, but I think we need at least 32 entries for a bracket, right? I mean, we could do 16.
Yeah, 16 would be fine.
I don't know.
Sweet 16.
We got a lot of stuff, though, but I guess we don't have a lot left over. So Wendell estimates we have 10. I'd say we got more like 12 to 15.
Yeah. If you count the drink mixes, it's probably closer to 20.
I don't want to count the drink mixes.
You want just straight carbonated sodas.
I mean, we're straying from God already with this mango nonsense.
So Kroger's put this thing together, and it's carbonated water and natural flavor, and that's the only ingredients.
Wow.
Natural flavor.
No sugar, huh?
No sugar.
It's not. It tastes like it has sugar.
Yeah, it's sweeter than the others. So my other favorite flavor is like a purple can. It's like blackberry something, and it doesn't taste like it has any sugar. That one does. I don't know if that's the natural mango flavor, but
this one is so carbonated it tastes acidic.
I like it. You're like, I don't know if I like it.
It's hard to like. I'll take a big drink of it, and then before I've swallowed it, it's all evaporated.
You mean the flavor, or
no? It's because it's so carbonated.
Yeah, there's so many bubbles.
It's not bad. I think it does. It's pretty decent at thirst quenching, but you would have to drink a lot of it. Like,
yeah.
Oh my gosh! I've just sanded the deck and put the first coat of sealer on it. This is gone in one drink.
Isn't that the Diet Coke business model?
That's also the Diet Orange Crush business model, because like you drink one and it's like, oh, I need another one,
and it never ends. I guess you eventually do get enough base water. Okay, letter grade and venue for enjoyment.
This I would probably give this like a B, maybe a B minus. It's got good flavor. It's got good drinkability. This would be just I wouldn't. You
wouldn't buy this at Kroger.
I mean, well, I would if this was in the fridge. I would probably grab this and drink it. I think it would not be very good warm, whereas the Diet Orange soda is really not terrible warm even. This is not something that I would drink warm.
What's the lowest letter grade you've given?
C minus.
I think the curve is too high. Is Fanta not a D or an F?
Yeah, I guess in the context of all the other ones, because I'm getting a better feel for like, it's really like level of desperation for me. It's like if there is only, unfiltered, like what's the white stuff that is in water? It's really bad around here.
Chlorine?
No, it's like it's like sediment and minerals. Like when you get a glass of water out of the water system around here, it's so old that like it's like, oh, there's little white flakes in.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
So like, if I would rather drink that's an F.
I think you gotta put yourself in the mindset that it's all available, and you're not dying of thirst, and you grade them all on that same scale.
Yeah, that would be okay. That's fine. I was thinking that like a D was I'd rather have Nestle water, which is actually really good.
I'm going to reach out to the audience because you mentioned that white stuff in the water, right? I buy distilled water to use in my humidifiers for that reason, because if you use tap water in humidifier, you will have a white, crusty, it'll look like a geological deposit in the bottom of your thing. So I have a lot of distilled water in my basement that I use, and I don't use the humidifiers when it's 90% humidity. So they're just sitting down there. 2 different times I've gone downstairs, stepped in a puddle of water. One of the gallon jugs, these are Meyer distilled water, has just mysteriously started leaking 2 different times now.
Huh.
The plastic degrades. So when you talk about like water storage, they're like you have to buy a certain type of plastic.
Okay, so I think the like best by date on water reflects the plastic, right? Because water can't go by.
Yeah.
These are 2022.
Huh.
Were they like out in the sun at all?
No, they're in a dark basement.
That makes no sense.
Climate controlled. And it's really actually much cooler down there than the rest of the house.
Any chance the cats are like hitting
Nope.
it somehow?
No cat. I looked for like, is there a rodent that's chewing these? I couldn't find any physical signs of it.
Wow.
Just tiny, tiny pinprick leaks.
I would think it would be plastic degradation, but
Well, then Meyer plastic is
it's
terrible.
garbage. To be fair, most plastic is garbage. So
That is 5 minutes and right at 6 minutes of time wasted. That might be a
Banter.
record for the beginning of the show.
The nonsense episode this week is going to be record breaking.
There was a lot, yeah. A lot of security, too. I've noticed since probably the beginning of the year, the security stories are much heavier in the news feeds.
yes,
And that's not my bias either. I'm actually leaving a lot of them out.
Yeah, security is only getting worse.
And it seems like awareness of it. I mean, it was always bad, right?
Security is only getting worse, and the government reactionary stuff as a result of security getting worse is getting much, much darker timeline, as we'll find out in Australia.
And yet, despite what you would guess is growing awareness for how impossible it is to safeguard some of these things, so much so that they should never be created in the first place, we get this.
The federal government is going to expand its use of facial recognition despite growing concerns. Now, despite growing concerns, actually the article goes through like 7 or 8 points. It's like, wait a minute, weren't these faces collected illegally? And the article concedes, yeah, probably, but it's the federal government. It's probably fine.
And then there's that whole melanin issue. That's still there. They haven't fixed that. And, the whole, sometimes your data set will end up in another's data set, which will end up in another data set. I might have opted into the first one, but I have no control as it snowballs. And it just keeps going.
Also, the DMV databases, which were never all of that states' rights stuff, and then the federal government is like, "Oh, we'll take that." But at the same time, we found that DMVs like California are actually selling that database commercially. So, yeah, if you're selling it commercially, the federal government can use it too.
Everybody can. So
Yeah.
can Facebook and Google, Chinese Communist Party, whoever wants it. And you might be thinking, well, that's ambitious. Who's going to do that? Because the people we got in the government right now probably are not capable of this. And so the idea is just to bring in a bunch of fresh, young people with no experience.
Biden launches the U.S. Digital Corp to bring young tech talent to government. Now, I'm usually really optimistic. And it's like, we're going to bring in young people, and they're going to find problems, and they're going to solve them. What's going to happen, what I've personally experienced when I was a young person, I came in, solved the problem, and no one was interested in actually solving the problem because it would ruffle a lot of feathers.
Yeah, and it would create new problems that they are not trained to deal with. And that would mean learning new things, and we're just not into that.
It's like, you youngins, you don't understand how this works. And I was like, no, I understand exactly how this works. You're wasting hundreds of millions of dollars, and here's where all the bodies are buried. Get out.
you're fired.
Okay.
Can you change your tone? We don't like how aggressive you're being.
I just don't want to waste all this money as a taxpayer. Good Lord.
Son, what do you think the government does? Well, we're going to take a very brief break from suing Google and Facebook this week, and we're going to go after some other people. Just a small off week.
The SEC steps up its research into brokers' quote-unquote gamification of trades, Cherry Gensler says. All right, so this is completely 100% a smokescreen to try to make retail traders the bad guys for exposing the horror show that is the modern SEC. That's all this is.
You want to talk to me about gamification when you can do things on the option market that there's no reason to do. It's just speculation.
As we understand how Toys R Us and Sears, which were profitable companies, were forced into bankruptcy, not by Amazon, but through, trade shenanigans. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about how we're going to fix that before this. Come on.
I remember they were talking about, like, when we were doing the whole Occupy Wall Street thing, People were like, hey, you bring nothing to the country. You're just parasites, and you're just destroying us. And their response always was like, no. It's financial innovation, and it's driving the country, which is kind of true. I mean, they were generating a lot of money, but is this not financial innovation?
It's not allowed when you're making more money than the incumbents.
I think the big problem here is that we're talking about Robinhood basically, right? Schwab is getting into it too, but Robinhood's the OG here, and they forced all of the other brokers to change their business model, and those people have a lot of power. It is kind of, when you buy a stock on Robinhood, it like confetti animation pops up and it's like, oh, good job, you did good. And I guess if you are the kind of person who craves that like idle game clicker feedback, maybe you get caught up in that. But was that person ever going to be mentally sound enough to trade the stock market? Also, the FTC has taken an action, and this is a weird thing because it's like, well, you should be allowed to put whatever software you want on your phone. How often have we argued that?
Yes.
But this is the dark other end. This is the thing that they'll seize on to try to destroy that.
The FTC bans spyware maker SpyFone and orders it to notify hacked victims. So this was software that you could load on a phone and give to somebody, and then you could see everything that they're doing on the phone forever and all time.
Sold as parental control. That's the loophole.
Yeah.
But the FTC is not buying it. Krista, what if you got a call? What would you do?
Not answer it because I don't answer phone calls.
Well, let's say they sent you an email.
Again, probably not answer it because I don't know who it is.
No, it's an email saying, hey, we just want to let you know as part of this settlement that your phone was...
Oh, part of that.
Yeah. Someone installed this on your phone and paid us for it. And here's the name. And it turns out you live with them.
Oh. That would probably change things a little bit. I'd be like, why didn't you install it on your phone?
Because he doesn't want to spot himself. Now, if you are a regular viewer of this channel, you've probably heard this mentioned about 10 billion times. There is someone at the desk who beats this dead horse a little bit. But in his defense, it is a horse that deserves beating. Because what percentage of the population do you think understands this situation at a base level?
Less than 1%. Probably not even 0.5%.
It's shockingly low, and this is amazing evidence.
It's crazy to be the only one that's like pointing to the dead bodies in the street, and it's like, I'm pretty sure that the cadmium factory has poisoned all these people, and other people are like, do what now?
But what you don't realize, and maybe you do realize this, but the street is paved with dead bodies. This is the narrow focus that you're interested in.
Yeah.
You're ignoring a lot of other bodies.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not going to fault you for it because it needs to be discussed.
Juniper breach mystery starts to clear a little bit with new details on hackers and U.S. role. Yes, this is the very same one that I've been talking about for like 5 years. And this article is almost like well, we haven't forgotten about this, but there's a lot of mystery here. And yeah, it probably was the NSA, but something the NSA introduced, some other nation state noticed, and then used that access to add their own backdoor, and then, basically hit the, apocalypse doomsday button, and then all of a sudden, the floodgates open, and every cyber criminal, script kiddie could, exploit this and be able to get access to your networks and blah, blah, blah. Probably this is what's at the center of the OPM hack. That one.
You didn't say the buzzword.
Juniper.
No. The name of the algorithm.
Oh, the elliptic curve encryption?
Dual elliptic curve.
Yeah.
So what we do know, what is new information here, is that Juniper engineers actually pushed back. And they said, are you crazy? This is bad. We don't want to use this because it's bad security. And they got a visit from the NSA, and they were told to keep their DoD contracts, they would be including dual elliptic curve. They did not have a choice.
See also the aforementioned first article where it's like young people will be brought in.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey guys, this isn't really secure. And it's like, no, you don't understand. We're the NSA. We think it's secure. And it was not secure.
But I don't even think they said that. I think they just said, well, you're going to use it.
Or don't make any money and then be on the street starving.
Yeah.
So, and like you say, China is who they're blaming as the other state that eventually figured it out. Hacked them twice. They didn't put it together. And that was over years and years and years. So
One of those hacks introduced yet another weakness too, which is just amazing.
that was an impressive thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think the NSA intended for China to be the one to use it. Maybe they did.
If the NSA was the one that did this with the weak algorithm, they should have had a team of like 12 people that did nothing but watch over Juniper and make sure they were okay. And they failed at that. That is why we must never have backdoors and encryption. This right here is the microcosm of the whole Apple argument and all of the stuff going on with Apple and the backdoors and we need encryption and blah, blah, blah. This is what happens when you do that because this is exactly what that was.
And
But what if we made it so only we could use it? That's not how it works.
As evidenced
Yeah.
by...
And it's not like, it's not like after they roll this out 3 months down the road, somebody's going to write a smarmy article. It's like, oh, look, they're scanning and nothing went wrong. It took years and years for anybody to figure out what was going on here.
Yeah.
And even now, when did this happen?
2014.
Even now, we're not sure of all the details.
Yeah. Well, a really important thing to point out there is that you say years and years, but certain parties were exploiting that almost immediately. It just wasn't widely known.
No, but they were doing it for years.
Yes.
Unmolested. It was what a great hack.
Yeah.
I bet every Monday they had a stand-up conference call, and they were like, "Can you believe this? Another week."
And like the first few, they were just laughing. And they're like, "Oh man, we'll probably get caught next week." And then like 3 or 4 months in, they're like, "They're not gonna catch us, are they?"
Could you believe this? Should we send them a hint?
Maybe we should steal some money so they notice.
And all of that should shape the lens through which you view stuff like this.
Yes.
Because as good as it sounds, it will never be protected because it can't be.
Apple secures the first states to support digital driver's licenses, but privacy questions linger. They might be thinking, driver's license, blah, blah, blah. No, not just that. Even the DHS is going to accept this at airports. DHS, they made a big deal about our state IDs because,
Yeah.
Kentucky's kind of paranoid. They're kind of paranoid about Big Brother. Our driver's licenses are really not super sophisticated digitally. There's not a lot of information there. And Homeland Security has a problem with that because that's a problem for air travel because as a result of that, it's fairly easy to fake our IDs.
But not the new ones, right? That's why they changed it.
That's why they changed it. Yeah. So we're required to have, different ones. But you can actually opt out and not get. You can get an old style one where you're not in it, but then you can't fly.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you see that Kentucky is one of the second rounders here?
Yeah.
So we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
Time to get that e-bike.
these, I mentioned this last week. These stupid lawsuits, they just keep going and going. There's never an end to them. And if you're Apple, you got to be really upset with this headline because it's like, oh, I thought we'd finished that one. I thought we'd won that one. And maybe they will continue to be the winner here, but there was an issue.
Judge in Nokia and Apple lawsuit owned Apple stock during the proceedings. This is a lawsuit from 6 years ago. And the judge is just now disclosing, oh, wait a minute, it turns out I owned Apple stock during that. Whoops. The article doesn't go out of its way to explain that, but it seems to have been that, the judge had Apple stock in a mutual fund or something.
I'm sure it was a managed fund.
And he said,
wasn't aware.
I didn't know. But probably nothing will happen.
They would have to redo the whole thing. I don't think anybody's looking for that.
No.
But is this something else that we need to screen for in every big tech case?
Probably.
Because these are such common stocks to own.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like if it was managed, you might not even know you own it. Could you even find a judge who didn't own some sort of big tech stock?
If they have some kind of a retirement, even just an index fund.
Right.
Yeah. Any kind of growth fund is probably going to have Apple, especially at that time. Well, the big trial started, and she has an interesting defense. This story was prior to that, but we have seen a couple of days of trial at this point.
Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes on trial as jury selection began. And so faces up to 20 years in prison if convicted. She's on trial with Balwani. I like the Onion article. Did you see the Onion version of this? It's like the trial started, and it had a picture of her on trial with a black box, and it's like this black box is going to prove her innocence.
Oh, because it was the test machines.
Yeah.
Now her defense is that the her lover at the time, who was the co-founder, I guess, she claims it was all this campaign of control and abuse, and it was all him, and she was just being dragged along as the poor helpless princess that she is.
I don't think that defense is going to work out for her.
No, I
No.
don't think so, and it shouldn't. I don't care which gender you are. If you make a poor choice in a mate, that's on you. You can't just take all of your problems and blame it on them because they were bad. You chose them.
Well, she was the CEO, right? Like, she can't really argue that, no, someone else was making all the decisions. Like,
Yeah, but you kind of get the idea that she was just the face because she was such a media darling. And he was doing all the work, except there wasn't any work.
yeah, she was in on it.
A lot of the things they're accused of remind me of like the Nikola thing with the trucks, where it's like, we've got all this amazing technology, and then it's like, here are the problems with the technology that you have, and they're like, we have a plan for fixing those things, and it's like, how do you have a plan for addressing these things? We haven't worked that out yet. It's like, well, then you don't really have much, do you?
We have venture capital coming out of our ears. You want some? The EU, when they brought along their GDPR and all of their stuff, they kind of took what California had and massaged it a little bit, but they left out one very important thing, and now they're having to go back.
In a boost for net neutrality, the top EU court has plunged the dagger into the controversial zero rating practice. So this was kind of an end run around net neutrality, where two companies could partner up and say, okay, your data is not going to count against any kind of a data cap. But the EU courts have looked at that and rightly said, it's like, look, from the network layer, the thing where there can be congestion or there could be a finite amount of bandwidth, the network layer doesn't care if it's your bits or somebody else's bits or yet someone else's bits. So the whole zero rating thing is by definition anti-competitive. And that is correct.
Yep. Hard to argue otherwise. A lot of people, they try to sell it as, oh, these evil regulators are trying to take away your free HBO Max bandwidth. But no, what they want to do is they want to give you free everything else bandwidth.
I want to be able to tunnel Hulu over HBO Max. Like, maybe I can encode, a Hulu program by referencing specific frames of specific other HBO Max shows, and then I have a program that assembles that. I mean, that's basically where we are.
So yeah, they're going to try to get rid of that. Should be for the best. Now, I think, I was thinking about, here's an engagement challenge, chat. I was thinking what we should start doing to kind of like spice up the news, right? Mm-hmm. Is we'll each choose a story of the week that we think is the story of the week.
That's this one.
And we'll spend a little more time on it. Yeah, for me,
yeah,
it's this or the Torrent Freak one. The Torrent Freak one affects me more. But this one's more terrible.
The Torrent Freak one is basically another level 1 I told you so.
Which we should stop doing. But anyway, this one is, I think at this point, I'm completely convinced that Australia is just a test bed.
Yes.
For dystopia.
As we always say.
They've figured out, I don't know who they are. Maybe China's involved. They love Australia. And I'm sure the Western powers are involved. But somehow, they're just like, whatever, we'll do it to the Australians. And based on how hard they push back, we'll change it for the rest of the world. And they go as far as they can. This is ridiculous.
The Guardian headline is Australian powers to spy on cybercrime suspects given the green light. That headline is not the correct headline. The correct headline is OMFG, what the heck is going on in Australia? The law enforcement people just got sweeping and ridiculous superpowers to basically run amok with anything that plugs into the wall.
That was the headline I saw. It was basically like, you don't need a warrant anymore in Australia. Like, you can just search whatever.
You still have to get something from the court, but it's like the lowest possible standard of evidence of a warrant.
It's like a self-serve ice cream machine of warrants. It's very convenient. You just, you go up, you pull a lever.
It's not like the McDonald's one where it's always broken either.
No, it's broken, but
but not in the way that would help us.
It's so insane that, if an IP address is doing something bad, or an IP address is suspected of doing something bad, the law enforcement can go to the network operator and be like, hey, we need you to just log everything for this IP address, all the traffic in and out, and they have to do it. They're compelled to do it by law. But the law also exempts the person from any kind of tort or civil suit. So if law enforcement demands something that's completely insane and would otherwise open up liability for the person that's helping law enforcement, this law will actually shield that person from civil lawsuits, which is completely bananas.
And there's no guideline on what the crime has to be. Copyright violations, totally fair game for this thing.
Yeah. It's supposed to be quote unquote federal, but everything is a federal crime at this point.
So yeah, that's if you're in Australia, you have to look at, like you say, those Ethernet ports, just look at them like live snakes now. Because that's the kind of caution you need to be taking.
But maybe that's not the best analogy for people who live in Australia, because they live with snakes all the time.
Yeah, but they're all, I'm sure they have a healthy respect for them. They're all deadly.
Yeah.
It's also true that law enforcement can impersonate you so if they went to Twitter and said, we need to impersonate this person on Twitter, Twitter would have to comply. Because we think that they're facilitating a crime or whatever.
They can seize your servers and take them over.
Yeah.
And run them, like the FBI did so many times. Oh, they did that in Australia, didn't they?
Yeah.
Oh, they were probably testing this. So yeah, it's crazy the level of power they have here. And make some of our power grabs look
pedestrian and weak.
Just sad. But that brings up an important point. The war in Afghanistan is over, right?
Oh yeah, obviously.
Yeah, so we're done with that, right? So not a problem anymore. Is the Patriot Act still in?
Oh yeah, it's still yeah.
Oh,
yeah. That's weird. Huh?
That's weird. Why would we still have that?
Yeah.
I wonder what the next war is going to be.
It's apparently the war on privacy, because the way that Australian law is written, what's to stop them from compelling Apple to add backdoors to their encryption at this point?
But they won't say that publicly. What's the PR campaign going to be?
I think it's going to be the war with white men over 35.
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to it. Well, India in perhaps a distant second, but still second on worst ideas of the week.
India launches an account aggregator to extend financial services to millions, creating a single juicy target for hackers no matter what financial services you use. That last part I added to the TechCrunch headline.
So this, and we've done several stories about this, and they always go back to loans, right? They're like, no, we're just trying to get more people access to loans, because we might not loan you money because we might not trust you. But if you give us access to every single online account that you have and let us look through them, maybe we will give you loans. Oh, and by the way, that's the only way you can participate in the financial system eventually.
Woo!
So enjoy that.
Now we know why cryptocurrency is outlawed.
So
it's funny how that works, isn't it?
They're going to makes it possible for banks, tax authorities, insurers, and other finance firms to aggregate data of customers who have provided their consent, which will be mandatory at some point,
right,
to get better understanding about their potential customers, as in all of their transactions.
Didn't we do a story a few weeks ago where it was like they want your internet history too, and it's like, good grief.
That was the social score, but that wasn't in India.
No, that was.
I think they were planning that here or in Europe somewhere. But yeah, this is kind of just a different route to that same destination, I would say.
Horrifying.
Now, over in China, they are really, really getting serious about, I think China, I don't know what happened. Maybe they did like an internal study or something, and they started to see this like, wait a minute, we've been letting capitalism run kind of wild. We might be losing control of it. And it's time to rein that in a big way.
China to cleanse online content that quote-unquote badmouths its economy. So this is, the long line, the next in a long line of things that started with Jack Ma and, disappearing one of their rich actresses and a whole bunch of other things, because it's like, no, we must have top-down control of the entire economy.
And Didi.
Yeah.
That was a big part of it.
Yeah.
It was like, wait, that company is going to be like way bigger than the government. What do? We crush it. And they're starting to figure out, as most people are, just how manipulative and powerful these social media algorithms and other kinds of like Amazon algorithms can be for the human mind. And it's like, wait a minute. We want mind control. You don't get mind control. We get it.
China proposes strict control of algorithms. No, they're not talking about merge sort or quick sort. They're literally talking about
Just bubble sort.
Yeah. They're literally just talking about the social media algorithms, which content to show you, and how long you are on site. And they're also really concerned about games and things like that that have addictive components to them.
And we just recently learned about TikTok's algorithm and how like the scrolling algorithm is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really just worms its way into your brain and figures out what you like. That's dangerous to them. It's dangerous to everybody.
With the new 3-hour gaming limitation where you can only play, what is it, like 3 hours?
It's like 1 hour per night.
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m.
So if you're like, let's assume that you're a member of the party and you're looking at stuff and you're just completely naive and you're probably one of those people that only used email like twice in your life. It's like, okay, we created the rule. We're only allowed to use it for an hour. Let's use our vast surveillance powers and see how much people are sticking to that. And then you see that no one is sticking to that and they're just completely, and it's like, are they horribly addicted to this? We've already lost control. It seems like they would double down on like trying to control everything.
What's your next move, though?
Take over Taiwan.
I'm not sure how that results in more control.
Because that's the source of all the technology.
Well, here's an idea. If you live in China and you're thinking about, if you're an entrepreneur, you're thinking about a new business, I would say that you need to figure out somewhere people can go for leisure that doesn't involve video games, right? Because I think that people are going to have a lot more free time as everything is banned.
Chinese authorities say overtime 996 policy is illegal. This is maybe not a terrible thing.
Oh, no, it's definitely not a terrible thing.
This
But
is
what are they
positive.
going to do with their free time?
They're going to make more people. That's the goal here. That's all of these things.
We want our citizens.
At what point do they just bring out breeding cages?
The breeding pits with the dog from Wobble Dog.
So if you don't know what 996 is, it's 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. Basically, your entire life
Yeah.
is in the office. And you probably just sleep all day on Sunday, right?
Yeah. Catch up on sleep that you've lost for sure.
So they're going to get that down to, I don't know if they're going to go to 40 hours, but they're going to cut it and make that illegal. They say it's a sense of pride, but do you think it's a sense of pride for the workers or for the business?
If you didn't have anything else to do, maybe.
It's probably kind of like how it is here, where like, and I've heard about this like in Japan as well, where people work and it's like you socially feel like you can't leave at 5 because it's like, oh, people will see and then they'll judge me and then I won't get a promotion. And so
Yeah.
then everyone just sits around at their desks all night and it's like, what are you accomplishing there? But it's like a social thing.
Well,
Maybe that's just that run amok.
it's over. See what happens. And a lot of smaller countries have been following this trend, and it's smart because they probably can make a lot of money in these early days of it if they do it correctly. But what was the other one that did it? The volcano one?
Ecuador?
Was it Ecuador?
No.
I can't remember.
I think you might be right.
Oh, maybe.
But anyway, another one add to the list.
Cuba to recognize and regulate cryptocurrencies. This one was really interesting because Cuba's got a couple of unique takes on how cryptocurrency can help them with like the microeconomy part of things. So they don't necessarily have their own separate currency, but they're able to sort of connect with the rest of the world and participate in a larger economy.
You got to remember that for a lot of years, Cuba had to dance around all international trade stuff.
Yeah.
They had to figure out an alternative. So this probably looks pretty good if you live through that. It's like, oh, I don't have to deal with SWIFT if I don't want to. Yeah, I like that.
And the cryptocurrency is generally deflationary, so I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, if you've got a runaway currency, but your people can have some fallback in a cryptocurrency, that'd probably help you overall.
I would think so.
I don't know if a government would want that if they were hyperinflating, though. I'm sure we'll find out.
The money printer is going to continue to go burr. The report for August came out, and it was not good.
The inflation report? Or?
Yeah, what choice do we have at this point? I mean, the snowballs are rolling.
Yeah.
You'll be forced to drink seltzer water soon. Because Orange Crush will become impossible to buy at inflation levels.
Orange Crush will be like the status symbol for 2025.
Would you say that they've been crushed?
I would say it's a crushing demand. I wonder how much of that stuff they sell. Do you think it's such a low amount that they're like, all right, it's not a priority? But somehow in Sausage Toast Town, it is a priority.
It may just be that no one there is buying it. Or it could just be that the supply chain is so broken that, only certain places get certain things because the supply chain happened to have enough in reserve there.
Or Sausage Toast secretly is one of the Crush, like
Crush
family
influencer.
people. Yeah.
Did we have the capacitors article? Was that in Nonsense? Is that in this week's news somewhere?
Capacitors.
The capacitor shortage. There's a Japanese company that makes really awesome surface mount capacitors. And they're like, the whole world uses our products. We stockpiled over a year's worth of product. Guess what? That year is gone. There is no more stockpile.
I don't think so. There's several
Spoiler
chip
alert.
shortage articles. Well, moving on to security, you can have the best security in the world, but you eventually have to trust somebody, right? And when you do, you got to be careful how you deal with them.
Fired New York credit union employee nukes 21 gigabytes of data in revenge. This was credit loans and applications and stuff like that. There was enough logs to say, hey, wait a minute, she logged on after she was fired.
So they did pass the disable this account alert to the IT team, but they did not do it quickly enough.
Oops. IT always knows who's being fired first. That's just...
Except these guys didn't answer the email.
Yeah. Oops.
And now they might be fired. What if you get the message, it's like, disable your own account?
Then you just nuke everything.
Is that the equivalent of I'll just show myself out?
But you still have to complete the work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying she should have done it, but it's kind of ballsy to just be like, screw them, and then log in and just delete a bunch of stuff.
Not only that, she bragged to a friend.
That she did it.
In texts. Oops. That's what got her. Yeah.
That's stupid.
But is it that kind of attack? Yeah, it hurts the bank or the credit union, but it also hurts all those mortgage holders, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of a dick move to those people. They didn't do anything to her. Well, another crypto platform bites the dust.
Hackers steal $29 million from crypto platform C.R.E.A.M Finance. They found a bug where when things it's implemented in Etherium, but they found a bug where when I guess the contract was being executed or being turned back in, that you could initiate another one with the funds of the first one.
It was so the flash loan was not an Ethereum contract, I don't think. I think the flash loan was their thing.
Oh, okay.
But they used Ethereum to back it. But the hackers figured out that before the Ethereum transaction finished, they could just keep hitting it. Keep getting those flash loans and then withdraw them.
Well, oops.
So the blockchain is fine. Nothing bad happened there. It's just this company. They did a stupid thing and they will suffer for it. I put this in security instead of social media because this is really, it's not new information.
Nope.
And a lot of you are going to be like, yeah, okay, whatever. You think we didn't already know this, but some of you probably don't.
Here's the article you can send your family that explains it quickly and succinctly.
That's exactly where I was going to go with it. Other people don't, and you should tell them about it because I try to tell my dad about this. He doesn't care.
There's no escape from Facebook, even if you don't use it. She joined Facebook in 2013 and then forgot she even had an account. But then Facebook never forgot about her. She logged in, and the stuff that it knew was downright scary.
She actually had a friend talk to her, and I was talking to her about this kind of stuff, and she was like, oh yeah, I created a Facebook account, but I don't ever use it. And he was like, oh really? Let me show you. And she was blown away by it.
If you showed your dad all this, he'd probably be flattered. It's like, they put a lot of work into keeping up with me. And it's like,
Yeah, your dad kind of likes the social validation of Facebook.
Oh,
I
he
think.
craves it. And he's a writer. He used to work for a newspaper for a while, so people will read his posts, because he's a decent writer. And I was like, look, Substack. Go to Substack. Get $1 a month from a couple of people. Just give you something to do. And he's, like you say, he wants those likes.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about the dollars. It's the likes.
Your dad could be an influencer. Didn't he do photography too? He could have an Instagram.
It all goes on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, guess who owns all those pictures? Not you. Doesn't care.
The only thing Facebook is good for is the marketplace. there's some real horrors on the Facebook Marketplace if you ever care to browse it.
You should start screenshotting horror of the week and bring it to the news, Kristen.
Oh, I have one. I'll
don't
bring
spoil it.
I'll
Don't
bring it
spoil
for
it.
next week, but it's
Right.
really good.
Don't give it away. Well, GitHub is one of many companies who are trying to put AI in our programming. And it sounds amazing. To me, it sounds impossible. And maybe I'm right.
GitHub Copilot security study. Developers should remain awake in view of 40% bad code rate. So you're a programmer, you're kind of, programming along, and it's like you have a vague idea of what you need to do, but you're not sure about the exact syntax or the functionality that's available in libraries or whatever. Well, the GitHub AI can look at what you're doing and sort of draw on the entire library that is everything else on GitHub and say, oh, I think I can help you do this. The problem is that a lot of that code on GitHub is basically garbage. And so a lot of the output from the AI, also garbage.
But it will run. The AI is pretty good at finding you something that will compile and might even do what you expect it to do. The issue becomes security. It's usually the most basic and filled with holes way of doing a thing.
Which is what you'd expect on something trained from just the unwashed masses of GitHub.
Or from He-Sung and his firmwares.
No! It's like he's working for Hikvision these days.
Here's a interesting court case because it's this whole who's ultimately responsible for a thing? Is it the person who built the car? Is it the person who was driving the car? What if an AI was driving the car? Who do we blame?
What about the parents of the AI?
Apparently, it's just whoever you can sue.
Parents of teens who stole $1 million in Bitcoin has been sued by the alleged victim. So this guy got malware, and it apparently exfiltrated his Bitcoin, but he finally figured out it was two teenagers. And so he's written a letter to the parents to say, hey, don't make me sue you. I know who you are now. It was your children. And we'll see where this goes.
Is this in the U.S.?
No, it's in the
No.
UK.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I think that's the way it works, though. Like, if you're not legally of age, I think your parents have to stand for you.
So they are now, but they weren't at the time.
Yeah. And it was 2 or 3 years ago, which is right around the statute of limitations in the UK. So,
well, that might be difficult.
But he claims he wasn't able to unmask them until this year.
yeah.
So does that make a difference? Who can say? I guess the courts will have to say, won't they?
Yeah.
Update pending.
Yeah. And this is a terrifying one. I do say I love the contactless payments. Kroger needs to get their shit together because I'm tired. Those things never work. Come on, Kroger. And they probably do it. We're going to get a ton of comments like, my Kroger has those. You live in the country. Yeah, I know. But bit of a problem.
Academics bypass pins for Mastercard and Maestro contactless payments. It's been fixed now, but this was actually pretty genius. You could use two phones and basically create a wormhole for contactless, stolen card, whatever. This is pretty awesome.
And it sounds a little unwieldy, and you might think, how am I going to use that in the field? But really, just have those two phones together with the card in between them, right?
Yeah, or you could, the way that it made the attack sound like a perfected version of this, like if you were on a crowded subway with somebody, you could totally, you'd do the contactless payment just standing next to somebody on the subway eventually with a perfected version of this exploit.
You mean just run your own iPhone store and charge them?
Yeah, well, yeah, if you were standing in the subway and your accomplice was trying to buy something somewhere else, your phone would be connected to their phone, and you could totally just wormhole their contactless payment from the subway to, whatever store you were at to buy something.
Was it not all near field?
All of it was near field, but it would work just as easily over any other kind of a connection.
You'd be more at risk of getting detected there.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so the pin wasn't necessary. They've managed to work around it, but it is fixed. But what else is lurking?
Oops.
And here's another genius way that people are stealing from us. And these guys did the opposite of what those Filipino by way of China hackers. These guys were very careful not to steal too much money so as to always fly under the radar.
Gift card gang extracts cash from 100,000 inboxes daily. So this is literally just phishing, but it's phishing for people that have gift cards.
And a persistent presence on your machine that does nothing malicious, except they said maybe 5-6 times a month, scan your emails. And they weren't like just reading everything or making copies. They were just scanning, looking for gift card numbers or cryptocurrency addresses or something like that. Found something, maybe they'd steal a little bit. Most people never notice. And
This was terrifying.
Yeah. If you are someone who uses lightning cables, what percentage of the population is that?
All of them.
A crazy amount. You got to worry about this one.
A new version of the OMG cable is a USB-C to lightning cable that hackers can use to steal your passwords or other data. It's a cable that contains a microcontroller, and so, you can't trust it. It also works up to a mile away.
There's one that's been modified and one that hasn't. This guy was super proud that he managed to get his microcontroller to fit in that little lightning cable. That is impressive.
Yeah. If this is what randos on the internet can do, can you imagine what the intelligence services of various countries can do?
Also, don't you think that every phone company abandoning the cable in the box will make that worse?
Yeah.
Because people will go for the cheapest one they can find, right?
Yeah.
And they'll go for the Amazon one.
I think we need to step up and do it like a level 1 random EM field detector thing so that you can wander around and be like, well, that's weird. This thing's emitting Wi-Fi, or that's weird. This thing's emitting 900 megahertz.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. Like a little, maybe a little glue-on thing that just pops over your entire back ports.
Just detecting everything. That software-defined radio thing you did would be a good start for that, because it's you would be able to detect the radio transmitter somewhere that it shouldn't be.
Yeah. Would you ever? I guess sometimes you might plug in something else that would do that, but you would know.
I would rather have a false positive than a false negative.
They sell these. We should get one. I don't know if you have to go through a screening process or something here.
I'm pretty sure we could get one.
To research, bro.
Yeah, we could say we're doing research.
Exciting times. What do we got for tomorrow?
We're going to do one more story first. This is my runner-up to the terrifying story of the week. I'm still going to give it to Australia, but this one is crazy because I've kind of suspected this for a while.
Yeah.
But we find out that the ISPs are not just in bed with.
Remember all the times we talked about the DNS thing, and it was ISPs were like, no, we totally are not going to sell your DNS traffic. That's crazy. Why would we do that? And then this, which is worse.
Way worse.
Sky subscribers' piracy habits directly help Premier League block illegal streams. So the UK ISPs are selling what's called net flow data. And so this is data about what IP addresses are talking to what other IP addresses. In the past, anti-piracy outfits would have to participate in, say, a BitTorrent stream. And then as a result of participation in that, because of the way the technology works, you can get some insight into what all IP addresses are conversing with one another. In a normal situation, if you are not part of the conversation, you cannot see what IP addresses are talking. So if you've got a VPN connection, it's from your IP address to, let's say, a Swedish VPN, that's just between the two of you. But if your ISP sells data about that, it says, hey, this IP address is spending a lot of time talking to this IP address. It's not decrypting the traffic or anything, but it is keeping track of who is talking to whom.
And there are companies who are just, subsidiaries of the big ISPs who are constantly monitoring and keeping track of suspicious IPs. And I don't have any proof. They're just keeping these lists. And then when a big event happens, like a soccer match or something, they're screening everything against these lists that they have. And if they feel like they've discovered someone who's broadcasting this based on the massive amount of traffic, like let's say the game starts at 8 p.m., all of a sudden this IP just blew up at 8 p.m., shut it down. And the ISPs are like, yeah, we'll do that.
And this is without decrypting the traffic. So it's basically that thing that we always warn you about your metadata leaking what you're doing, even without having direct access to the data. It totally is.
But this is it's not even metadata. This is just the flow.
Yeah.
How much you're serving. And not necessarily to who.
Yeah.
The timing has a factor.
I can't wait for two things to happen. One, I really can't wait for Netflix or somebody to have an event, and then these guys say, oh my gosh, this IP address is pirating our material. But it was actually Netflix, because that would be one business interfering with another business, which is like the worst thing you can do under business law, and the penalties should be, they won't be, but they should be fairly severe.
How about a really, really popular politician does like a viral live stream or something?
It's like, nope, shut it down, it's too popular.
Or there's a big protest for marginalized people,
But
and they shut that down.
With these kinds of things implemented, you would never know why it didn't work. It would just be like, oh, it glitched out. It weirdly stopped working. I don't
Yeah.
understand why.
I think they might be able to get to the bottom of it eventually.
Eventually, maybe.
So the company could still suffer.
I kind of doubt it, though.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And you should be in the streets about it. But there's a lot of other stuff that they're in the streets about. Just put this on the list. Add it to the queue.
I'm just angry about everything. I got a lot of feelings, and I'm out in the street about it.
I wonder if you could get them for some kind of eavesdropping. Like this runs afoul of some kind of eavesdropping law.
Well, maybe some letter, like to the letter of GDPR or something like that. Seems like they'd definitely be skating on the edge.
It's like the phone company being like, I don't understand what we did wrong. We're just letting people that are voyeurs listen to other people's phone conversations. They can't talk. Why does it hurt anybody?
We just set up a 900 number to work with that.
What's the problem?
Do we still have 900 numbers in the age of the online
I'm sure we do.
thoughtery? Seems like a really old school. You think it's all just old men on there because they can't figure out OnlyFans?
Probably.
It's like cable.
All right. Is that it?
Yep, take us out.
That's it.